Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Geek Spiel. And that is actually kind of a cheat because episode 1 and 2, we called it Sunday Night Spiel because we were recording live using YouTube Live to record a show talking about games and those kind of things. And we kind of did things that way because that's how Gil Mello and I have been recording craft beer reviews and shows on craft beer for the last 5 years, I think. So it kind of felt that was the comfort position. But after a little bit of talk and after a couple of weeks of doing that process, we discovered that maybe recording. Still using YouTube Live to record these things, but then editing them post would give us a better product and give us an opportunity to, kind of wash out the rampant F-bombs. We want a podcast that you can listen to in the car, and not be worried if your kids are in the back seat. So we won't talk about games, but want to talk about it on a family kind of level, a PG kind of level. So starting this week, we're going to release the show to YouTube and to the podcast channels in the middle of the week after we get some editing done. We're still going to do interviews. We're still going to talk to people in the gaming industry and cover things that way. So tonight on the show, we've got a couple of new people involved here. These are people that I've known here and there a little bit along the way, and they want to be a part of things. We've got Steve Shipe, who John is not on the show tonight, but Steve comes way of a gaming group that I've played a couple of times with at John Harmon's house. Steve, how are you today?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
All right, and he is an overanalyzer, and I can't wait to talk about the game we're going to talk about after our interview tonight because we had a really fun time a couple of weeks ago playing that. Also on the show tonight, we've got Mike Haggerty, and Mike is a longtime podcaster and a friend from another friend in the gaming industry, and he lives here in the Shenandoah Valley area of Virginia as well too. Mike, hello.
Hello.
Hello. All right, and of course, Gil Mello here again. Gil, how are you today? All right. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't call Sunday night the end of the week anymore. It always still kind of feels like the beginning of the next week. So yeah, it's tough to call it that. Well, the first thing we want to do tonight is we want to get into the interview. We're going to play. Gil and I interviewed 3 cool people from Tabula Games. We had to record it in an odd time because they are in Italy and we are not. So the 6-hour time difference was a little tough. So Gil and I interviewed them. Andrea, if it's a man's name. Andrea, Matea, and Kirsten from there. So we're going to play that interview now, and we'll come back with a little more conversation. All right, we are here with Tabula Games, and we're going to talk with them about their Kickstarter that's going and raging on Kickstarter right now, I guess we could say, and that is Barbarians, the Invasion. So joining us from somewhere in the great country of Italy and around the Mediterranean, we've got some folks from Tabula Games. Hey, guys, introduce yourself for us real quick.
Hey, Matt. How are you doing? So I'm Andrea, and I take care of marketing at Tabula Games.
I'm Mattia, one of the game designer of the game.
And I'm Kirsten. I take care of customer service.
Great. Thanks for joining us here today. Gil Mello is also here with us. Gil, you want to say hello too?
Hello, guys. I'm looking forward to this. I mean, that box looks huge from here.
Yeah, it is actually.
We are awful excited about getting right into this. Like Gil had said, the game box is big, and some of the videos that I've seen, Rado does a run through on this, or some final thoughts, at least on their Kickstarter page videos. And in its current condition, or at least in the condition that it was sent out as a demonstration to some of these video bloggers, it is monstrous. Gil, if you look in Gil's video, you can just see he just in the last couple of weeks finished a game table that he built himself, and I don't think it'll fit on that. Is the game in its final shape now, or is it going to be modified to be in a more reasonable size package? I'm not saying that a large box is unreasonable. I'm just curious if you're going to make some changes to the formatting.
All right, yeah, we really love the big box. was nice, and we have a huge table, so it was not a problem for us. But then, yeah, we realized it's too big actually, so it is gonna be resized. The final box is gonna be around 40 centimeter for 40 centimeter, which is
in inches. I'm not sure either to do the math, but I think at this point the game board and player boards are all being sized down quite a bit. Whereas, we have some, of course, 80 miniatures that are quite a good size. And we have, of course, this volcano, which is the unique element of the player placement. And so that takes up a little bit of space in the box. So those are some of the reasons for the size.
Is the volcano something you're going to be able to keep it together, or are you going to have to disassemble every time?
Well, it's made of 4 parts, 4 including the base. So, but it's gonna be easy to put them together. It's just like you put them and then the spin. It's easy to spin. It's just like a border that keeps them together. So it's not something like it takes a lot of time. Just place the parts and then move them. It's not gonna be a problem. The problem is like the size of the volcano. It cannot be reduced too much. Otherwise, the miniatures are not gonna fit there. So the volcano is gonna be 34 centimeters, if I remember correctly, and that's gonna allow the miniature to not crash against each other and have like some nice space area to room.
Tell us a little bit about the decision making that volcano element kind of gives us. Give us what were you? I mean, you can see from some of the videos how it's designed, but I'm curious as to what you were going for there. Some of the dynamic decision making.
Well, one of our core design for the volcano was to make sure that players can mess up too much with the strategies of other players.
Okay, so you want to kind of prevent some of the interference among players, right? So is that what you're trying to say there?
Volcano, it's thought of to be this kind of twist on worker placement. So it does give in each player kind of the opportunity to twist things up, to change strategy kind of mid-game. But, the designers also wanted to keep this a Euro game. And so they didn't want to also have the opportunity for players to completely destroy the strategies of other players. So it's a well thought out kind of element of this game to manage both of these mechanisms.
So there will be no take that kind of a mechanics into the game at all.
A small take.
So I guess it's a twist figuratively and literally.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's the point.
Yeah. All right. Well, so the box is big. The pieces are beautiful. There's a couple of different levels on the Kickstarter. I guess you can get kind of a pure Euro feel to it without all the miniatures for a lower price. Are you getting many takers on that, or because it seems to me like when I go to Kickstarter, the really popular ones, Rising Sun and these other $1 million Gloomhaven things, people want to buy the miniatures. Are most of the people that are willing to purchase the game going for the bigger box?
Yeah, I think that was it's been a big draw for backers on Kickstarter. We've noticed many more people going for the bigger box and for the miniatures. There are some people who have also upped their back in the recent days saying, oh, I love the game mechanics and that's why I went for the game. But seeing all these miniatures every day, I had to up it and take the bigger box. So
yeah, I think Kickstarter is written right for people like me. I do the same thing. I make the initial purchase, like a $50 game is great, and then a few days go by, and I think, for another $20, what's $20? For 15 more, I can. And by the end of any campaign, I've got the highest level thing. So,
I find a little sad though. I kind of dislike the idea that Kickstarter is so dependent on stretch goals. You had a good game. A lot of those games, people would not even play with some of those pieces, but it forced the designer, it forced the company to start putting tons and tons of miniature. The game, it bothers me a little bit. I think people should start backing up games because they're good games, not so much because there's like a 5-page list of stretch goals, and that's hard on people producing the game as well. So,
well, let's take that to a question, Gil. Did you guys feel any pressure to develop a game that would sell on Kickstarter, or did you develop the game you wanted to play and you wanted to make? I mean, how much marketing went into your design?
So I guess Mattia can start and answer.
Well, the game was an original idea from Pierluca Zizzi, and I think he really wanted to make that game. It wasn't influenced by the Kickstarter.
It's a good way to expand the game. Actually, like the solo player, we have had the solo player option through Kickstarter. I originally was not planned, but people kept asking the solo player, so yeah, we put the design under pressure to add it. So that was a marketing thought, since it was something.
Well, I guess it was kind of a dangerous question because marketing has to play a role in your game design, because you don't want to design a game that doesn't sell to anyone. The idea is making a game that gets out there. So it definitely looks like Pierluca had a shower moment where he realized this volcano was a component that he wanted to put in a worker placement game, and then this game kind of grew out of that.
Yeah, for sure. Like as you said, like we were not expecting to sell so many versions with the miniatures. Like we're seeing the sales of the smaller version is like really low. We weren't really not expecting that. We were expecting like more people would just buy the game because it's a good game, has like amazing mechanics, is like innovative thanks to the volcano. But then you see the Kickstarter page, you see like just 50 people bought the non-miniature version. So yeah, then it has to be your marketing, and yeah, you just have to follow what people want. Yeah. And
to talk about some of the stretch goals, so we added on the player rules. It's also given us a chance to, we're trying to reach the next goal of a cutthroat mode. So to give the option of also more replayability, more variability, to be able to actually flip those volcano wheels and give you a whole new setup. So, the stretch goals, they can be a double-edged sword, but they do give us an opportunity as a new company to, put in some of those elements that maybe weren't possible at the beginning.
Yeah. Now, did your marketing research prepare you for the fact that this was going to fund in 9 hours, or were you still kind of rolling the dice? No pun intended.
I guess we were still kind of rolling the dice. We were hoping that would be baked soon, got huge success, but yeah, it was like kind of a cold shower when we saw that number. It was okay, and then we have to prepare and like make bigger arrangements, and also the production of the game is gonna depend. Like we weren't expecting those huge numbers, so initially we were thinking with small numbers it's better to produce the game in Europe. But now that the numbers are growing and we're expecting around 1,000 copies, 2,000 probably, to print at the end, so we are shifting towards China because it can cover in smaller times.
Yeah,
it's also more convenient for sure.
And it should have 2 weeks to go, right? So that
we do, yeah. And I think one of our favorite parts of Kickstarter has really been kind of the community that's built up around it. One of the big parts of my job is definitely responding to what people are, saying and what they'd like to see as this game evolves. So that's kind of a great part for us, is to get this feedback from the community and really hear what people have to say and what they'd like to see in future games and this game as it evolves.
So when you're right on Kickstarter, she's the one answering all the questions.
I was about to say the miniatures are gorgeous. I mean, whoever is doing the design for the miniatures themselves, it's just the level of detail.
It's like Ludus Magnus Studio. They're gonna have a Kickstarter campaign soon, like on 15 or 16 of May, I think. And they are already established, and they're quite a big name.
I love that kind of mythology, and I like Nordic mythology. I like Barbarians. I like things like that, and I can see there's a lot of research went into those miniatures, and it makes me happy because it tells me that the game has a lot of good bases when people go to that kind of detail. So, what did you say it was about a few years to develop the?
Yeah, I think the game designer, like you said, he had that kind of in the shower light bulb moment with the volcano about 10 years ago. So it's not something that happened overnight. It's a project that a lot of, careful thought has gone into it, especially the mechanics. And then, we also have an amazing illustrator and artist for all the cards, who is Ivan Cavini. And he works a lot in kind of the realm of Tolkien, and he's brought us all these amazing illustrations that has really brought the theme to life, and in combination with those miniatures with all this amazing detail, really the theme of the game has really grown into something.
Another thing we want to talk to you real quickly about is what's next. I mean, you guys are really caught in the moment on this now, but where do you see this going? I mean, this is a heck of a ride to take, but you got to keep considering the next thing too.
Yeah, so we first started with a small project that took 260 people. Mm-hmm. It was Jewels, is a card game on Kickstarter. So this one really projected us in a new direction, and we are already planning a new game. Okay, first we have to fulfill everything with this game and make it happen, print 2,000 copies of the game and ship it everywhere around the world. But yeah, we are already planning on a new game, and we have some talks with the game designers. He's not here, the other guy is not here, he's a close friend of him, but yeah. We are already planning something else.
And I would say on top of that, on another game possibly in the next year on Kickstarter, with Barbarians, we've had some requests that unfortunately we haven't been able to fulfill. For example, for a 5th player expansion. And as we realized, some of these stretch goals and the comments from backers, it was something they would have loved to see. And we realized for us that meant almost creating a whole new game. So, we can't promise anything, but if Barbarians is received as we hope it will be, it could be something to look forward to in the future.
Are you guys going to retail this worldwide after the Kickstarter's done, or do you?
The idea was to retail it worldwide. Probably it's going to take some time because we have so many copies to print first. So the retail is going to shift. We are just a small studio with not many people. Considering everyone, it's 10 people, I would say. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we had to close. Initially in the Kickstarter page, we had a retailer section, but then we had to remove it because we were receiving so many requests. And it was kind of difficult to keep track of them. And, you have to make different deals with retailers, and it takes time. And first we want to concentrate on the people that pledge on Kickstarter and satisfy them. And then we can start to build a relationship with retailers. And
really, that's the beauty of Kickstarter here, right? You've got a design group in Italy, a publishing house in the UK, and here they are distributing this thing worldwide. You would certainly not have that kind of distribution reach on your first couple of games without that platform.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, also hopefully if this goes well, we have already a plan for another game which is going to include augmented reality, because our parent company is really deep with software and application and this kind of stuff. And yeah, we are experimenting something with 3D and virtual reality and augmented reality as well. So that's in the plan. We're still tweaking stuff, but yeah, that's something that's going to happen as well, hopefully.
I was wondering if Mattia was getting any sleep lately, because this is
most of us are not, I have to say, on the team. The first night you were saying, did you expect it to fund in 9 hours? And really the answer is that we were all here until 3 a.m. watching as the numbers grew. And, we did not expect that, no. So we were there answering all the comments and, of course, saying thank you to all the people that were there to back us on that first day. So, a lot goes into a Kickstarter campaign, especially as you add on those stretch goals. And Mattia has, I think a lot more elements to work with, but of course that for him means also a lot more work. So
yeah, and every day I'm asking him new stuff, Mattia, can you add this thing? Mattia, can you do that? Can you do a stretch? We want to give that and that. And
it is one of the most beautiful Euro games I've seen in a while. That is.
Yeah. And I have to say, your surprise is genuine because at the success is genuine because every 3 or 4 times in this interview, you guys have said, if this is successful, we're going to, and maybe if this works, we're going to. You're 350% funded with 2 weeks to go, so I think we can call this a success.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, well, good. Well, we're awful excited about getting our copies. I think the delivery looked like it was scheduled or leaning towards December of this year. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
I really want to have it shipped by Christmas, winter vacation for the other people.
Yeah. So that really tells us that it's more than just a mature concept. You guys are going to be ready to go on getting things started once the Kickstarter ends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As soon as we have all the stretch goal figured out and everything is done, we are ready to have everything printed and shipped as soon as possible. There are some requests like co-op mode or stuff like that painted miniature will for sure delay the shipping, but then it's still to be considered and still to be decided. And
yeah, speaking about those miniatures, some other comments that came from the community, which was something we did not expect, was a lot of people have been asking us for a prototype of painted miniatures. So that might be our next kind of surprise element that we're going to try to throw in before the end of the campaign and get that out to everyone.
Yeah, keep the buzz coming.
Exactly.
Lots of reasons to share. So, and a lot of people, just the level of the game, the size, the scale, the miniatures, people want to show off what they're going to get. So I think it's a self-fulfilling kind of prophecy there. Really, thanks for taking some time and talking to us. We look forward to watching the campaign grow. We look forward to the games coming in at the end of the year and taking up our entire kitchen floor. Because I don't think my table's big enough.
It's gonna be smaller, I promise.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Okay, so we're back here now, and we want to talk about a couple of games that we've played during the week. Like I mentioned in the before the interview, we talked to Steven. We played Citadels a couple of weeks ago, and I've played this. This is a Bruno Fiducci game. It's been out since I think the first issue came out in 2000, and they just reissued it again in 2016 with some new art and a couple of new characters to it. But so it doesn't really fit the bill of what's new and what's hot, which everybody wants to talk about the newest flavor, and there's certainly a lot of content out there to do that with. But we want to talk about a game that I just really think the strategy is deep. For a very simple game, low cost components, but a really great strategy. So, Steve, why don't you take us down the road of what Citadels is a little bit here?
Okay. Well, Citadels is explained as a German-style card game. That's probably mostly because the components are mostly cards, although it's not a card game in the sense of a typical card game like poker or even a deck building game at that. The cards that you hold are districts that you're trying to build in your medieval kingdom, and the game really breaks down into 2 parts. It's role selection and then taking your action. At the beginning of each turn, the group will remove one of the roles, one of the 8 primary roles, and then choose from there and pass around. The roles allow you to do certain things on your turn. It's an asymmetric kind of style, and they go in a particular order each turn. There's no guarantee that a particular role will be in because some of them are removed before they're drawn. As some examples of the roles are the assassin, which is the first to go, and he chooses a role, not a player, to assassinate for the turn, and that player doesn't get to take a turn. Followed by the thief, who chooses, again, a role, not a particular player, and will steal all the money that they have in front of them at the beginning of their turn. So this is a game that I personally think doesn't get enough credit for how deep the strategy actually is. It's usually dismissed as kind of a random social kind of game. But at least in my game circles, I hope to teach people that that's not, they're kind of selling it short if they think that that's all it is. There is some deep strategy there of trying to analyze what roles other people are taking and knowing what roles to avoid on a certain turn, so you don't bumble into a bad fate for the turn. So the game plays out. You are trying to build, as I said, these districts from your hand, and the game goes until the first person builds 8 districts, which signifies the last turn of the game. Anyone else can try to get to 8 on that turn, but the game ends and you tally up the points. The points mostly come from the value of the cards that you're building, but there's also some bonuses at the end for being able to have kind of a diverse array of districts, being the first to build your 8th, or at least being able to get to 8 before the game's over.
The really deep part of the strategy here is that there are so many facets to it that if you take a roll and it's predictable what roll you've taken, it's easy for everyone else to target you. And your ability to use that roll is then diminished. So if I'm going to take the king roll, and the king is going to play is going to go 4th in the turn of events, if whoever has the assassin wants to slow me down, and it's obvious that I've got that, so you have to kind of misdirect and change your strategy as the game goes on to keep from becoming predictable and hence a target, especially with regards to the thief, where they get to take your money, which is you get a turn, but if you don't have the money to perform the actions that you planned, then you're still screwed. So the really kind of cool dynamic was when we played this with 5 players 2 weeks ago, was that I don't remember this depth to the play when I played it years ago, was that if you're careful in observing what's going on around the table and what everybody has in front of them and what they should be doing if they're trying to win this game, you can kind of deduce with Steve's knack, at least, is with relative accuracy who has what. And there's still some guessing if, well, is he going to try and advance, or is he going to try and misdirect and throw me off the trail? But once a roll is selected, and then the hand goes to the next person, and that person selects a roll. When the players start to reveal their cards and take their actions, more information is being gathered. So, if you're not the assassin, then you probably are this. So if you can narrow things down further from the original 8 or 7 or however many rolls are in the game when you're playing, you can really kind of tighten the noose around someone that you're trying to stop from winning. In about 2 turns, I went from what everybody thought was the sure thing to, I think I finished 4th out of 5 when we sat around the table that night. So to me, that's a mark of a good game, if the strategy is evident but not simple.
I think they took a simple thing like a set collection game and add all the roles. And although it's a 45-minute game average, because the roles change all the time, I think it made it very dynamic. Every round, it doesn't take 45 minutes, right? It take 45 minutes to play a whole game. And then depending on the group, that can go very fast. And I think I like that much. And I think it's under the 400 on the ranking of BGG. So it's still a game that everybody enjoys a lot and like it.
Yeah. Yeah, and for being 16 years old and still getting some play on the table, I think that's with all the new stuff on everybody's shelf, for a game to come out in a group of 5 people on a Saturday night is a mark of something that's interesting. So, and maybe, I don't know, maybe Steve just likes to win, and that's why he he drags everybody down it.
It was good enough for Fantasy Flight to get a new edition last year, so that that says something about the game.
It does look like it, the second edition from last year, or whatever edition number it was, the 2016 edition, did look like just a redraw of it. I guess they added some additional characters, but I don't know. I would want to play this several times with the original characters to be able to really figure that strategy out before they started to shuffle in expansions and different things. So maybe that's a way to slow Steve down when we play this game, is to change the characters up, and the strategy to win is less evident to him.
I'd say I do like to win, like most people that play games, but my primary draw is having fun. And for me, I need a little more depth to games. So like I said, just kind of blindly drawing a roll and dealing with it wouldn't suffice for me. So I discovered, like I said, the depth and the complexity of the game by really trying to get a handle on what every single person at the table has drawn, so I can kind of predict how the rounds are going to go out. It's done a fairly decent job of letting me win, but more importantly, I want to have fun if I'm sitting around the table playing a game like this. So
now you kind of dismissed the new art a little bit, but I think there was important things they did that maybe people didn't talk about as much. But women role on board gaming is growing, and it's important to give them credit. And I like that part of the reworking on the art was including women as more women into the characters. I think the scholar and the artist and even the assassin, I think it's a girl now. So I think this is it's a great step forward for any board game, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I would say I haven't seen the new edition, but I'm assuming that's just an artistic choice there. I don't remember there being any characters where gender played a role, but maybe
I don't think that maybe it was made they want to do that, but I see that and I noticed that, and that was something that was important to see it for me.
The Dark City expansion actually had a witch and a queen. But those aren't part of the base 8 roles, but they were in the expanded 9 roles that were in the first expansion.
Steve, was it when you played that expansion, was the idea to mix the roles in, or was it just to take the 8 from the expansion and play them?
No, they suggest that if you're going to use the expansion, you don't grab more than probably 2 roles to randomly shuffle in. So it changes a little bit, but not entirely. And then the other part of the expansion are a few of those purple, the special districts. You grab 2 or 3 of those and throw those in as well. Or then you just pull a like number out if you go over the 2 or 3 mark. So there aren't too many purples in the deck.
I gotcha. All right. Well, there's an in-depth look, and you didn't hear much from Mike because he said he hadn't played this game before. But that's certainly one that you ought to get. I think you still go to the weekly gaming group up there in Hagerstown, or I guess it's in Martinsburg. Yeah.
Your hobby place.
Little plug for the hobby place.
They played Citadel's, I would say 10 years ago, at the original location of the store, but I remember I was leaving early. That's the only time I've ever even played or seen the beginning of it play. Like no one, I know people have it, but no one ever brings it.
All right.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. Not everybody's played every game. In fact, I want to go around the table here now and ask you guys what you've played this week. And with a 9-year-old, my playing is pretty limited. So the variety of playing is pretty limited, I should say. So I'm not going to probably have played any. I know Gil had Anachrony out on the table here when we first connected the cameras here tonight. So Gil, what have you played this week?
So I played quite a few games this week. I can't get enough of Atmos, so I keep playing that game, mainly because Gabby got it so well. I played Anachrony again, but my favorite game I've been playing again for the last 3 weeks is Terraforming Mars from Jacob Fixilius, I think is his name, something like that. And it's published by Stronghold Games, and it's basically you go into that planet and you have to rise temperature, levels of oxygen, building granaries, building cities, and terraforming Mars. And so there's a mix of card drafting, hand management, there's tile placement, and one of the options, once you play for a little bit, you can have viable power as well. So I think it's a really good game. It's one of my favorite games I got last year, and it still is this year. I've been playing it a lot. So one of those games that you finish it, and it can take 3 hours, and you look at each other and say, let's do one more time. Is that good?
I have not played that. Have you guys played that?
No, I haven't.
I haven't, but I've heard good things about it from some friends that saw it at Gen Con, actually.
Yeah, I have to say, Stronghold last year and this year, they came with a lot of good games. I think they're very strong, really high-quality games, and some of my favorite games, like Terraforming Mars and Great Western Trail, another game I played this week that I really loved. So, yeah, they're just getting thumbs up for me lately.
What about you, Michael?
We played Brass, last week. You guys played that?
That's they've got a Kickstarter out for the next one. Is Lancashire the first one?
I think so. Is it Birmingham? Is the
Birmingham's the expansion.
different one?
Yeah.
Have you guys played that?
I have not, but I'm eyeing up the Kickstarter because you can actually buy a copy of both of the games in the Kickstarter. There's an option to get them both. I don't have it.
What is it about? It's about northwestern England. So I don't know. I think there's a certain kind of person that they hear that, and if that gets you excited, then you probably like the game. And also, if you like Martin Wallace games, which generally I do, but it's pretty fun. Have you guys played Food Chain Magnate?
No, that's a relatively new title too, right?
Yeah.
That's climbing the way up. Yeah.
Yeah. Do any of you know Jacob Williford? Because I know he used to live in Charlottesville, and I think he told me he knows John.
He does. He's Steve. That's Jacob from the game.
I know him.
Okay. Yeah. Well, him and I are the parents of Food Chain Magnate.
Okay.
Because we split it because it was like $100 on Amazon. So, and it's the only game that he brings to the game store in a bag. Because I let him keep it at his place, and I guess he's worried it's going to get messed up or something. But anyway, we all think that's a fantastic game, and I'd say of all the newer stuff that I played maybe in the last year, like that's a non-war game so far, that's my favorite by far. And it's relatively, I think the rules are not that long. It's not that complex. But yeah, you really, after I'd say the fourth or fifth turn, you really have to start thinking a lot about all the different things you can do or whatever. So, but I guess it's really hard to get because like the game store owner couldn't get it for me. And like I said, we had to pay like $100 off of Amazon to get it. So, but it's well worth it.
Yeah. There again, that's another one I've heard and seen videos on, but have not gotten onto my table yet. So maybe this podcast is going to be kind of boring with nobody playing these awesome games. So.
Well, it's coming. I think it's $8 each, right? On Kickstarter right now. The new art looks pretty amazing for Brass.
For Brass, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I was going to say, hang on. We were talking about.
Oh, you're talking about Food Chain.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about like the new version of Brass, and I'm not going to get it because like I already have the older one. I know a couple of guys like they were going to back the Kickstarter, but that's a cool game too. We've played Orleans or Orleans, however you pronounce it. Any of you guys played that?
I love Orleans. It's
okay, yeah, all right.
Great game, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was
a copy of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually love the expansion, the Invasion. I think once you play with the expansion, it's hard to not use the expansion anymore.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah. I've only played it once, and I don't think the guy who has it has the expansion.
What about you, Steve?
I haven't played anything this past week, but since this is my first episode, if I go back 2 weeks, I've recently started playing Shadow War Armageddon. That was just put out by Games Workshop. It's essentially a reprint of Necromunda, only using the Warhammer 40k armies rather than the Hive World Gangers that Necromunda used. There was kind of a hubbub over it. It was a limited release. It sold out in minutes online for a box set that they originally released. They have said that they're going to release the terrain separately. Of course, it will cost more. And just a day or two ago, a separate rule book finally went on sale through GW. They have all the rules for it. So I played 40k.
Is that on sale now?
Yes, it's
a rule book? Okay.
It's a $50, about a 200-some page paperback rule book.
And that's still owned by Games Workshop, right?
Yes. Yeah, so I played 40k in the past. I started right near the end of 3rd edition. I have a bunch of the 2nd edition books and have kind of brushed up on the history of it years ago when I was learning to play, but only played for a few years because they kept changing the editions way too frequently. And I don't think the rules were getting better. Necromunda, when I saw them probably back in 2006, looked interesting, but I never got to play. The models were no longer available by then. This is a game that came out in the 90s.
95, yeah.
Right. So I was happy to hear that it was coming out, but I was too late to get a pre-order. And a lot of people that did pre-order basically were told, sorry, we ran out and we can't fulfill your pre-order. So.
Now, Mike, I know you've got some younger children, as do I. Gil somehow manages to get games, heavier games, Arcadia Quest and whatnot on his table with his 9-year-old. I can't seem to get past Star Realms and Hero Realms. So, you know, and I think part of it is the same reason that that my wife, his mother, wants to play Settlers all the time, and that is it's a game that she understands. So she can sit down and play a game for an hour instead of sit down and learn a set of rules for an hour and then lose. So when he and I get down on Friday night to play a board game, there's the stack of cards for Star Realms right off on the side. Oh, Dad, let's just play one of these, and then before you know it, the Xbox is turned on, and you know, and it's degraded from there. So I need to train him a little bit better, and that's a goal that I've got going on here. Every time I see pictures of Gil, you know, with his daughter playing the heavyweight games, I have to admit to being jealous. Mike, what can you get on the table with your kids at this age?
Well, for one thing, I kind of think that it's like you're just talking about, like Warhammer 40K and that kind of thing. And I watched one of my favorite YouTube channels is Gorilla Miniature Games, and so this guy's got a couple of kids, and he was like answering email questions from people, and someone kind of asked like the same question: how do you get your kids like into this? Because you kind of want to. I mean, I do think a lot of parents think, oh, I'm going to have this kid, I'm going to have a live-in like gaming, you know, partner or whatever. But his answer was kind of like, this is maybe less so with board games, but he said this is a really niche, you know, thing. Not many people like it. Period. So I don't know. Like so with my kids, my oldest really doesn't. Like he's played some things with me mainly to humor me. Like when I got GMT's The U.S. Civil War, I mean, we sort of played like the intro scenario to that, you know, because I asked him to, but he certainly doesn't want to do that. My 10-year-old, we were playing like, I'd say 10 to 20 games a week, but they were all things like pie face. They're all variations of you spinning something and something gets thrown into your face, or water squirts on you, or something explodes. And he's kind of off that kick. If anything, my 8-year-old daughter seems to be the most interested. Like she wants to. I would say her favorite thing to do is hero clicks. We don't use any of the like the powers, like the, you know, like how the numbers have a color on them. Like we just basically move and fight, which in my opinion, I mean, it's kind of boring, but she loves it. We have played Cult Express a few times. And I was actually surprised. Have you guys played that?
Mm-hmm.
With the little
it's one of the favorites in my house.
Yes.
Surprised by how much they did like it. And they did actually seem like they were trying to, you know, stack the deck in a certain way to actually do something instead of just randomly playing cards. But really, that's about it.
And maybe it is. Maybe I'm just forcing it. Maybe I need to let my 9-year-old turn into a 12-year-old before I expect him to play the heavier weight stuff. So
yeah, I do kind of think that. I'm thinking maybe I would maybe I have tried to like rush it, and not just with games, just like with anything. You try to get him to do things they're still too young for, or something. I don't know.
But even among adults, right? We like some games. There are people that just
yeah.
We have this ideal image in our head that our kid's gonna like exactly what we do. But
Right.
Yeah, my wife don't like half of my wife don't like 90% of the games that I own. And
My father liked to hunt, and like he got me a hunting license, and I went hunting with him like twice. But I was just totally not interested in that. So
Yeah. So the moral here is let my kids be themselves, but I don't want that. I want to force them into the things.
Well,
I
I guess
like.
you expose them to it. I guess
Yeah.
I guess think it's more don't be disappointed maybe if they don't like it. I guess I don't know.
I guess for me, what works with Gabby is that we get into character. When we play Code Express, we make voices. We do. I mean, you can imagine a Brazilian trying to make it a Texan accent is not that great, but still, we have fun because we try to get in character in every game we play, and I think that's what attracts her more than anything.
That's cool.
Yeah. So costumes is my answer. Get
exactly
an eye patch and a 6-shooter, and we can play Cold.
Play a Viking game, get a couple plastic helmets, and I bet you'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, that game night is a whole different thing, that's for sure. So, all right. Well, I think we probably just, as we're all getting a feel for things here, our homework for next week is to play some more games. Which is homework I can get into. So I guess we'll probably cut this episode off here now. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll get a little more comfortable in our shoes with the new format of the show and come up with some great ideas and some great content. So until next week, this has been Geek Spiel episode 3, and we'll try this again in 7 more days. So thanks, everybody. Cheers. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Geek Spiel. You can support us by subscribing on YouTube, liking on Facebook, or following on Twitter. We know you're passionate about games. We are too. So find us and engage on social media. See you next time.